It's 8th of January 25, and finally, I think the Welsh have finally got the message, because we've got another poll here from Stats for Lefties, who's an excellent poll finder, and Labour are on 27%, Reform 24%, so that's what to look out for Reform really. Conservatives 18%, Plaid Cymru 17%, I didn't realise they were so high. Lib Dem 6%, Green 6%. So looking at that, Labour are down 9%, Reform are up 23%, Conservatives down 7%, Plaid Cymru down 4%, Lib Dem +2%, Greens +2%. So I'd imagine what's happening is, for the main ones of the native Welsh, they're dumping Labour and moving to Reform. And I think that's going to happen across the country. Well, in the traditional Labour places, like North England, Scotland, Wales, because people can easily see they can easily see that a big percentage of the country are now third world, and they're going to get even more each year at a really fast pace. And in my opinion, we're going to be a third world majority and a native minority. And I don't think people in Scotland realise in the 2022 census, those that identified as white Scottish, basically native Scottish, was 77%, I think. That was 20, and that was from a census in 2021. And since then, we've had the Boris wave, which is the biggest ever wave of third world newcomers and families, etc. So you get another 3 years to add on to that, basically. So if that was 77% native Scots, it wouldn't surprise me if native Scots are now 70% of the population. So I think another 8 or 9% of that are expected to be East Europe, white, other. So you can see how much Scotland has changed already, and Wales is doing the same. Their population is increasing all the time, even though they've got amongst the native Welsh, the death rate will be higher than the birth rate amongst natives. So I think this is them finally waking up, and it's going to just happen, because say if you took out looking at me, it looks as if it's going to be bad already. We've just had that stabbing yesterday in London of a 14-year-old boy. The women, the mothers won't be out protesting, the 14-year-old boys, and the other young boys are stabbing each other to death. They won't be out protesting about that. They'll wait until there's someone like Chris Gaba or something who's got a terrible criminal record. They'll be out protesting that the police dealt with him unfairly or something like that. That's what they'll wait for. Or the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, which was 30 years ago. I don't know how many young black men have died since then, black boys. But the mothers don't seem to be out protesting, or, Diana Abbott doesn't seem to be out and protesting the streets or whatever about it. It seems that for Labour and that the lyrics of rap and drill gang lyrics are fine, just fine. It's a new form of culture in Britain. Anyway, so I hope this is Wales getting the message at last. Because I've been wondering when they're going to go, because if you see pictures of Cardiff, now videos of Cardiff and the likes, it's unrecognisable really. I mean, I think Scotland doesn't really exist now in my opinion anymore, it's just a sort of... And there could come a situation where Rabbie Burns statues need to all get taken down. Obviously, the way it's seen at the moment is, even though he's number one in the list for statue tumbling, I would obviously think the statue tumblers think, no, we can't, we need the SNP marchers, we need them on our side at the moment, or those who keep switching from SNP to Labour and back again. At the moment we still need them, the native Scots, So this is very interesting. I'm hoping this is the great change. I've been wondering when it would happen, because the newcomers, women's rights and LGBT rights isn't something you get checked on when you become a British citizen from these countries. No one's bothered about that, Yvette Cooper or anything, Jess Phillips. They're not bothered. I think they seem to think that they'll share their views in women's rights or take their views on board, or that they think they've got a blank head on these issues and they'll just listen to Yvette Cooper and Jess Phillips and take on board theirs, or be further left, further woke, or at the minimum they'll have J.K. Rowling's thingies, because now part of the spectrum of women's freedom, self-expression in Britain is the burqa. That's part of women's self-expression. That's British women expressing themselves. So, on to this. This Start for Lefties is a great thing to follow, in my opinion, by the way. So, and there's 12 months to go. I really hope that the Reform Party, just get behind them as a protest vote on a single issue. Nothing else matters, in my opinion. It's okay to say that we're heading for utopia or paradise as a multicultural society. If you're feeling that already, doesn't seem to be the case, and it's going to get worse when the natives are a minority, then you need to start voting Reform at least, or further right even. Ironically enough, SDP and George Galloway's party are probably even tougher in my mass migration than those parties, but you'd be sending out the wrong signal if you went to them, so you need to send out the right signal. Rupert Lowe's the one to look out for in Reform. He's a star, really, even though he's an old sort of major type. I disagree with him on a lot of things. I don't agree with the party system anyway. We should be like Switzerland, where we have quarterly referendums all the time and that. So this is fantastic news. And I think I'm voting on the single issue on multiculturalism, basically. But I think the irony is that probably a sort of symbolic moment was that 30 mile an hour zone. Did they move them down to 20 or something? And they had to abandon it. They had to actually scrap it because the Welsh natives didn't like it. And it is ironic that they've put up with all that woke stuff from Labour, and something like that was symbolically, and also they had to do the thing about women's things. I think they tried to get that through as well. They are a joke, really, the way Labour politicians are so out of touch. So here's someone saying Wales need to stop voting for Labour and get behind Reform. Starmer is a globalist. That is amazing, really. So this is very uplifting, and it also feels as if we're at a turning point, because last year we had those riots. I think it was traditional Labour voters so angry. They had built up anger, plus they had that Southport thing that really made them really angry. Their violence surprised me, and it was people out of control. And to me it looked like traditional Labour families. The men, the wives, the sons, the daughters, are totally out of control. They didn't like that immigration centre near them. Keir Starmer called them busting far-right EDL, which hasn't existed for 10 years. A couple of months later he sacked Sue Gray. I don't know if she had something to do with it, the advice at the time. Lots of the people from there get locked up. Most of them are working. When you see their details, they're all sort of native people. They don't look like far right, or quote the fabled far right. I don't even know if the far right exists anymore, the way they portray it. Yeah. So we had that, and at the time Nigel Farage got interviewed, I think it was in GB News or something, and he got asked, do you think you could be arrested for a tweet or something? And he said yes, and obviously he was scared. Well, he didn't show that, but I think he was scared, and quite right, because we were in a real Stasi state at that moment. And then Sue Gray gets sacked. I don't know if she had anything to do with it, but he brings in the new guy, Stammer, Mick something. And then in November, he makes the best speech on immigration since 1968, in my opinion. He says Boris's immigration was an experiment that he deliberately caused, and he's right about that. The Boris wave has sunk us completely. It's guaranteed that natives are going to be a minority. We're going to be a third world majority. Global South, as they would call it. It's a new experiment. And so this is fantastic news. And I hope it's on the single issue, because people are voting on the winter fuel allowance, which I think is just don't even bother about that, We're heading for anarchy. I think, well, it's okay to say we're heading for paradise. It's going to be a multicultural paradise utopia, but if you think we're heading for anarchy, Mad Max style, then you need to vote reform at least, for now. And then to make an Overton window shift. And then once that's happened, you can vote for there's better party, I know the Homeland Party is better than this, but I mean, personally, I think you need a freeze, and there's a petition just now on the government website. About 202,000 people have signed so far. I'm shocked at how few, so you could sign that and vote reform now for the Overton window to make mass immigration an unacceptable policy. Personally, I think we need a freeze. I think in 5-10 years' time, native female voters of the Greens and Labour and members of the Socialist Worker Party will be saying the freeze isn't enough, I think that's the way it's going to go. Because it's going to be so bad. And I see in Italy over the New Year's celebrations, there was some women have reported that they get groped and stuff, and the Italian police are looking for people of North African origin, either Italian or North African themselves. That's another New Year there. That was in Milan Square. So this is fantastic news. Anyway, reform's just a protest vote to me. I'm not even bothered who's leading them or anything. In fact, their migration policy is rubbish, because they want net zero, which last year would have meant about 700,000 newcomers from the global south, so that's unacceptable. It needs to be zero, basically. And the growth at the moment it's almost zero, month after month, year after year. So yeah, okay, goodbye.